Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We respectable listeners, this is a quick message, bi'iznillahi ta'ala, for all those who intend for sacrifice on Eid day by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning for slaughter animals for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a sunnah which we need for uphold and which we need for know now by the mercy of Allah. The Prophet alayhi salatu salam said, and it is narrated by Salama, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with that the Prophet alayhi salatu salam say, when you see the new moon of Zulhijjah and you intend for sacrifice animal on Eid day or the 3 days following the Eid day by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when at the 11, the 12 and the 13, if you intend for sacrifice animal for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that particular individual for refrain, meaning for remove anything from here, for remove here by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for removing nailsem, meaning clipping in nailsem, for remove anything from his skin by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This na hadith we all need for know, for those who intend for slaughter. As long as we don't see the new moon, we don't sight the new moon of Zulhijjah, then if we avoid, meaning for shave again, for shave, for cut here, for clip your fingernails anymore by the will of Allah, or your toenails, you need for keep them how then they until after the sacrifice by the will of Allah. And this is connected only for the person with the sacrifice, not to in wife, not to in picking them. If the person intend for sacrifice, now in this sunnah applied upon by the will of Allah. If a person intend for sacrifice and he appoint somebody for do the sacrifice on his behalf, the one way they appoint, this law not the upon her. Now the one way appoint them, because now in they do them, subhanallah. Now in they do them, but he appoint somebody. So the way they appoint, the holy not the upon her. In can clip his nails by the will of Allah, shave. In 10 days there, in then 10 days there is no problem by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the one with the duam, with the give the sacrifice, now he apply upon. In the situation we are in, a wife individually, he get the chance for sacrifice, and he intend for duam, yourself the law apply upon you by the will of Allah. Whosoever we intend for sacrifice, this sunnah apply upon him by the will of Allah. So supposing the days they start, let's say the 1st of Zulhijjah, commencing tomorrow, it starts the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and then along the line you get the means for sacrifice, and you make up your mind, say me are the sacrifice by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Eid day, or the 3 days follow the Eid day by the will of Allah, then the law apply to you again. Bismillah. From that onset where you make up your mind for do the sacrifice, or we get the chance for do then you have to maintain the sunnah of not shaving or cutting the ear or clipping the nails by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is not just a quick look what we need to understand as quick as possible as we are commencing tomorrow. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khair. Till we meet again inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.